Hello, this is Zealeus from Alta Confusion. And as you may have noticed, I've not been playing a whole lot of video games lately. I've actually been on a reading binge lately. And the last two books I've read, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about. They're both by the author Patrick Rothfuss from the Kingkiller Chronicles. I always get that wrong. I want to say Kingslayer, but it's Kingkiller. The first book is The Name of the Wind, and the second book is called The Wise Man's Fear. I'm going to try to do this without giving out too many spoilers, but there possibly could be some, so be forewarned. Basically, the story is there's a young man named Koth. Well, it depends on how you want to pronounce it. There's Kavoth or Kuth or Kabafti. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you could potentially pronounce his name. Even the author pronounces it a little bit differently than what Koth actually says it in the books and how to pronounce it. Well, I'm going to say Koth because it's easy. So Koth, it says very clearly on the back of the book that Koth is like uber awesome warrior and he's very famous and stuff. Where this book starts out is you first meet Koth basically as he's an old man, so to speak. And he meets somebody who's going to write about his youth. And so that's what really gets in the story is you start meeting Koth when he's a young man. I'm not going to tell you how it starts because that's a really big spoiler there. But basically, Koth is a young man, and then what happens is an adventure is to be going on to the university to basically learn the skills of alchemy and magic. And that way, I kind of refer to it almost as like an adult Harry Potter. And it's very interesting because you got this, old man Koth. He's like, dude, I've seen some things in my days. He's this kind of beat down guy who, his friend, Bast, is basically trying to get him to kind of rekindle his old spirit. And you get to see that old spirit that used to be a part of this man when he basically tells the story of how he got, presumably, because we're only in book 2 of the trilogy, but the presumption is basically from, he first remembers memories up to the modern day. And you can tell some crazy shit has happened during that time. But we still don't know, even through these two books, what that crazy stuff is. So there's that. And one of the things I find interesting is, you can see the books behind me on that side, is a lot of those are epic fantasy trilogies, where it's some big bad evil. I mean, almost every single one of these fantasy series, there's, the great big evil beyond, and that drives the plot. A lot of ones, they're character driven, but in the end, they're still plot driven because the whole point of the plot is they're going to kill the big badass. This, on the other hand, is 100% character driven. Koth completely drives the plot. It makes it interesting because if you go on the Amazon reviews, one of the things people kind of lament is there's no plot to it, man. There's no real reason of reading this. To me, that's one of the more interesting things about it, is it's almost more human in that regard. Think about it. Most people in our lives, it's not like you have some great big quest that you've been set out to from destiny from your youth. Yeah, you might get married, you might be single, you might have kids, you might not, who knows. But it's not like you're gonna go slay fucking dragons or anything. Whereas, every fantasy series there has to be a dragon. You gotta go slay the great big lich of evilness. Not so much in this series, man. It's just the story of Koth and just his adventures. And just like us as humans, man, it goes from one event to the next of Koth. And there is a little bit of a backdrop of kind of what the big bad evil probably is. Well, you kind of know what that evil is, but there's still not really that driving plot just for that versus some of your other series. And then to me, that's what makes it interesting because it's almost just, it can almost be broken up each, especially the second book, Wise Man's Fear, can almost be broken up into like 5 or 6 different mini books with M in it. Kind of like some series, they're almost like in more, actually another one I'm reading right now is from Warhammer series, is Gotrek and Felix. And it's kind of, I don't even know the right terminology, but basically it's like little, almost like vignettes of their adventures. And the second book of the Kingkiller series could almost be like that, like fairly lengthy, but still vignettes of very distinct parts of Koth's upbringing. But that's why I find it very interesting is, you're reading this and you don't know where it's going. You know, that in every fantasy series, it's going to climax into killing the big bad dragon or something evil. I don't know where the hell this is going. And to me, that's what makes it interesting. It's like, huh. The other part I love is just Patrick Rothfuss's writing. It's just his pen is poetry, man. He just has that way of writing where it's like, holy crap, I have to read that again. Not because like I miss what was going on, but just because he has such a beautiful style of writing that is very unique among authors. Um, Not many I love fantasy books, don't get me wrong, but not a whole lot of authors stand out in my mind as having true, incredible, beautiful prose. Versus Patrick Rothfuss, where I read what he's writing and it's just gorgeous to me. So that's the other reason I like it. Um, Let me see how the first one starts here. If it's how I, like for instance, he talks about the name, like the sound, and how it's silent, and there's different types of silence, and he describes the silence in such a way where it's like you can actually feel that silence. And not many authors have that skill of the pen to be able to describe silence in different ways and make you believe that he actually knows what he's talking about. So that's one of the reasons I like him. Is he can really write extremely well. That's just very it's not always there in fantasy authors. So big fan of the series. If you like fantasy series or even just kind of adventure series, I would highly recommend this series. It's phenomenal. Like I said, I kind of think of it as, you know, a kids or an adult version of Harry Potter. Um, More well written. J.K. Rowling, you're not the best author in the world. Don't get me wrong, Harry Potter, phenomenal series, read it. But as far as your actual writing, sometimes it leaves a little bit to be desired. Patrick Rothfuss is a more adult, grown-up version of Harry Potter. But kind of like Harry Potter, it maybe takes a few chapters to get going. But once you get going, whew, man, it just steamrolls. My one quibble I will give about the book is some of the minor characters. One in particular I really don't like. Okay, I'm just going to kind of say a potential spoiler. Skip the next 30 seconds if you don't want to hear it. But I can't stand his love interest. She just pisses me off. I'm not going to say why, but she just like, I just want to... but some of the other characters, Aloin, one of his teachers, Devi, she lends money to him throughout the series. I'm like, dude, this chick is awesome. She's just an interesting character. So he has this ability to write. Some of his side characters are very interesting, but then some of the minor characters just I really can't stand them. And not because you're not supposed to like them, but just because I'm like, I just don't like this character. There's nothing redeeming about them, even from an antagonistic standpoint. So that's Patrick Rothfuss's The Kingkiller Chronicles. If you're into fantasy, sci-fi at all, I highly recommend checking it out. That is Zealeus talking about books. Remember, kids, keep on reading in the free world.